Welcome to the first episode. We're going to call this McNew and Coffee. It is my wife's idea to start a channel or a podcast or something. And we've been toiling over the name. We've had some Latin ideas. We don't speak Latin, they just sounded cool. Invictus et Cafe, Veritas et Cafe. They sound cool. We're not Latin. We're going to keep it simple. McNew and Coffee. I'm McNew. The podcast or the channel, that's my wife's idea. She had this idea that we could share stories about work, about life. I love telling stories. I love talking to people. I often strike up conversations at the gas pumps, kind of like a weirdo. I tell stories at work, and it's just something I enjoy, and other people seem to enjoy it. So we will see if people are to watch this or listen to this, then and it has any amount of success, then that's credit to my wife. This was her idea, and so she gave a pretty generous budget. We'll talk a little bit about that, but she just gave the green light to go all in, which is kind of how I do things. And so bought some nice equipment and started filming. Never filmed anything before ever. And so if this fails, then that's just probably my inability to realize her expectations. And so we have been working on setup. We had this home office. It was mostly kind of a mess. We hadn't used it since I finished my last college degree. And so we rearranged, moved the desk, set up the props behind us, which do have some meaning, and maybe in a later episode we'll talk about those. But for today, we decided we just had to get filming. In fact, what she said is, today is Saturday. If we don't film something by Monday, she's going to start returning stuff, which is fair. We're into this a pretty fair chunk of change, and so here we go. Coincidentally, what I've decided to do here is just tell a story about my day. This was not a normal day. This was an unusual day. It started out normal. It had a normal itinerary for a Saturday for me, but it kind of got wacky. So my son plays flag football. He's got a game. It's about 5 minutes from here, and my 14-year-old daughter, she has volleyball about, say, an hour from here south. And so my wife's going to go to that, and I'm going to go to flag football, and that's not the exciting part of the story. I go to flag football. It's youth sports, man. Like, they charge me $3 per person to get into a game. I've paid hundreds of dollars for the kid to play, and then there's crappy seating. They set you so far away you can't see. It's like youth sports, man. Anyways, so I'm at the game, and my phone rings. It's the chief of police. I'm getting an update on an incident we've been kind of working on and following all week. And so let me stop right there. My current assignment, I'm in the rank of captain at my police agency. I am assigned as investigation division commander, which just means that the different investigative units, our plainclothes drug unit, our major crimes unit, and some other support units, all work in my division, report through a chain of command to me at the command level, and they're all run by sergeants. And so the chief of police is asking for a briefing and also giving me some new information on an incident that's been happening in our school district where, and this actually happened all over the nation and region. There were a series of swatting incidents and Snapchat threats that were just spread like wildfires that originated in the Midwest and sort of spread all over the country. And when they were spread, each community assumed that it was a threat in their own school district, and it's a picture of a gun, and it's been spread with the message that says, like, Monday or Friday or whatever the day was, they're going to shoot up the school or something. And it's very serious. And this happens every school year, and sometimes more than once in a school year, where our detectives and our police officers and our school resource officers, they are chasing down these leads to either a person in our district or to exclude them from our area altogether, which means these threats are happening way out of the area. One way or the other, when we investigate these, we're just trying to track down, is this a legit threat? Is this a real person? Is this someone in our community, or is this just some sort of swatting incident? And it can be all of the above in any of these cases. And so we've been dealing with that all week. They are an absolute pain. Social media platforms and their parent companies they're not easy to deal with. They are difficult to get information out of, and it's an absolute pain. So been dealing with that all week. Well, on Friday, today's Saturday, on Friday, late in the day, a new image with threat starts to circulate from what seems like a new person, and it's a different school in our community, and it's calling for a shooting on Monday. And so that's very startling. The school district is preparing for what their next step needs to be for messaging the community, and we are trying to determine if it's a legit threat or if it's just more hoax. And so the chief has the recommendation that we call in some detectives, and we put a lot of effort into this. That makes sense. The patrol officers that are handling it are writing reports, and we're going to pull all that together from all the different reports that have been taken and put a lot of effort into this. So I call in some detectives, and I'm doing that, leaning on the rail, watching flag football, and game ends. I drive the kids home, drop them off, and I have to run in to the office myself. It's about, say, 4 miles from here. It takes about 15 minutes to get there, here being my home. And so I'm driving in, and about 10 minutes before I left home to go into the office, my 17-year-old daughter has left for work. She works at a sporting goods store in town. And my phone rings, and the CarPlay picks it up, and she's sobbing. And I thought, oh no, she'd been in a crash. I've actually gotten that call from her before. And of the 6 kids, the 4 that are driving, I've gotten that call from all of them. So, so far, thankfully, they've been minor fender benders, but the kids have been in some car accidents. So that's where my head goes. Pretty quick, I realize she hasn't been in a crash, but she's upset, so I can't really decide what's happening. And then I gather that she's run out of gas, and so she's very upset. And I say, "Hey, where are you?" And she says she's in Dutch Bros parking lot. Okay, cool. She says that they've pushed her in a parking space. All right, no problem. I will be right there. She's got about 10 minutes to get to work. That shouldn't be a problem. I'm going to fly over there, pick her up, and deal with the car. So I go over there. Her car is parked, pushed just out of the out of the drive-through. And I don't know if you've ever been to a Dutch Bros. This is a very busy chain coffee shop. It is kind of like Starbucks for children. They serve sugary, bright-colored drinks and hand out it is sugar stop for children and young adults, and not my taste, but it's very busy. And we're talking like on a Saturday morning, there will just be dozens of cars wrapped around these tiny little buildings and out into the street. And there are several in town, just like a Starbucks, and they're all busy. They're all like that. And when they're busy, they are busy. They got 2 lanes of cars coming in, and it's Saturday morning, and that is what we're dealing with. And so when I get there, her car is parked, pushed out of the drive-thru, just like she said. And if I can just back up, these Dutch Bros are also run by 16, 17, 18 young adults, usually young ladies. And they have done an okay job clearing the car from the drive-thru, but I just think the very next big vehicle that tries to exit that drive-thru is just not going to make the corner because she's partly blocking it. So she gets in the car, and I say, hey, let's get you to work, but we have a problem. Your car it's blocking. And so that of course upsets her even more. She's very embarrassed. And so I get out, I help push the car out of the way. No big deal. And so now that's fine. I take her to work, and I either have a couple choices. I can either run into town a little, a minute away and get a new gas can, or I can come home and get one of the mini gas cans I have here. I decided to buy a gas can. So I buy a gas can, I get gas, I go back to Dutch Bros. I put gas in her tank, and while I'm there, of course, one of the employees comes out. She's very sweet. She's talking to me, and, she's worried that my daughter was embarrassed. I said, yeah, she was. I said, I told her as we were leaving, I said, hey, this is just, trying to make, lighten the mood with her as we were leaving to take her to work. I said, of all the places to run out of gas on a Saturday morning, Dutch Bros would not be my first pick. And because it had just in the moment, a giant truck tried to get out right before we pushed the car out of the way. Just in that moment, cars were backed up down the street. Like, traffic was affected on the main arteries. Like, I said, you were probably going to be on the news. And of course I was joking just about the popularity of Dutch Bros, but I thought it was pretty funny. So she did not laugh. I told that joke to the barista in the parking lot. She did not laugh. She did not think that was funny. And I got gas in the car, 2 gallons. That's what the gas tank held. And got the car, drove it to a gas station, filled it up, drove it a little bit further to daughter's work at the sporting goods store, parked it, handed her the key. She's very thankful. But now, because my whole family's spread in the wind doing stuff today, I got to get back to my vehicle, which is across town, and that means I got to walk. That's no problem. I'm a fit guy, and it's pretty decent weather, and so I'm wearing this. I don't have the flannel on, and that's important because I leave to head out back towards my vehicle, and I get bored walking really easily. I don't care for hiking. I always think, like, what's missing from hiking is like speed. And so, or biking. I love mountain biking. Hiking's okay if we're climbing something, but I just don't like long walks. And so I get about a half a block. I'm at a stoplight and I decide I'm going to run. I'm in jeans and a t-shirt. It's not raining, but it has been, and it's really muggy, and it's like 60 degrees. And so I take off running. I got sunglasses on. I have no flannel on. I have a t-shirt on. It's just a plain solid colored t-shirt. My hat's on forwards, and I'm wearing sunglasses. So I am running down the street. And if you're listening instead of watching, I've got my hat on forward now. It was backwards a second ago. I'm wearing sunglasses, and I'm running. Okay, and so I'm running down the street at, like 9-minute mile pace. Not breakneck speed. I just want to get there. It's say 3/4 of a mile to where my car's parked. So we're not like, this is not a marathon. And so I'm jogging down the street, and this is the city I work in. So I know like the most direct way. And so I cut down an alley, pop out, and I'm running through a residential area that butts up against like a commercial zone. And so as I'm running down the sidewalk, on the other side of the street, I hear people talking. I'm just acutely aware of people in my surroundings, because that's the job, right? And so you just become acutely aware of your surroundings. That's part of the survival of a police officer. And so I hear people talking, and I hear someone yell louder than they had been talking, "What's your name?" And it just piques my interest, because it seems like he's probably talking to me, which is weird because I'm just a guy running down the sidewalk. Although I'm in jeans, doesn't look like I'm out for a jog. And so I keep running, and he yells again, "What's your name?" Really, really, really loud, and definitely in my direction. So I don't look at him. I don't care to. And he's across the street, and I'm say a quarter block distance on him. And he yells, "That's a cop. That's a cop." Listen, I don't even know the last time I was in this neighborhood dealing with anything. I don't handle a lot of calls these days for service. Part of the work I've been doing just to help out is I like to go out and assist the plainclothes drug unit on stuff. We have done some stuff in the neighborhood I'm talking about. I don't know where this guy recognized me in my hat pulled low and my sunglasses running in plain clothes down the street. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he thought I was someone else. One way or the other, he's yelling, "You're a cop, you're a cop." I don't love this. I now have a decision to make. My day, where I thought I was going to start the day doing this right after flag football, has turned from rescuing my daughter to running down the street, being called a cop, which, all while true, well, I didn't love this, and so I'm running down the street, and he's yelling. Now he's chasing me. I can hear that he is running down the other side of the street, and I don't feel like he's chasing me like to catch me. He's just chasing after me while yelling, like, "Who are you?" Or, I'm sorry, "What's your name? What's your name? You're a cop. You're a cop." And so, pause the story right there. So, pause the story right there to explain what happened just before I got the call from my daughter to come into town. I was just a couple minutes from home. I was on the highway. I was heading in, and I realized that when I left home, I didn't grab my firearms. You see, when I got home from flag football, I took my firearm off duty carry out. I changed my clothes, and while I did, I slid it into the safe. I got small kids. I feel like if it's not in my waistband, it should be in the safe when I'm at home. And so that's where I went. I left kind of unexpectedly to head into the office, and I forgot it. Now I'm heading in, and I realize I forgot my off-duty carry firearm. And just to give you some background, I carry off-duty 100% of the time. I have my entire almost 25-year career. I feel like, and I've always felt this way, like I have an obligation to be prepared. So, and I advocate that to other police officers, that if you are legally authorized to carry a firearm off duty, concealed, you should have badge, credentials, the training, and the tools to be prepared all the time. And so take that quite seriously. I believe that for protection of myself, for my family, if we should face threats like anyone, police or not, we face threats in the world that we live in. And so I feel like with the training we receive and the tools that we're authorized to carry, that it's a responsibility to carry a firearm. And so I take that pretty serious. I also feel like I have a responsibility to the public. You know, I do most of my going to town is in the city I work in, and so I feel like I should be prepared with my badge and credentials and firearm to intervene should something happen in my presence while I'm off duty in town. And so that would be another reason that I personally choose to, and that I advocate police officers should consider. Another one would be like a rapid response to something very serious, like an active shooter incident. If I'm in town or in one of the neighboring cities, and there's reports of an active shooter or something like that, the ability to respond responsibly and in a coordinated effort with the on-duty police officers, right, without going into it too much, there's a responsible way to respond to armed active shooter incidents, things like that, that isn't just being a cowboy and charging in head first. Like, I get that, but that being considered, there's a responsible way to do it, and I feel like I have a responsibility to be prepared for that. I'm often at the schools for sporting events and other things like that. I'm often in a position that if something were to happen, being armed would give me the ability to intervene. Another reason would be like my own personal safety. Criminals are known to target off-duty officers, and so it's not a huge community they work in, and it is possible that you'd be recognized in public off-duty by someone you've had a prior dealing with. That happens, and we do our best to keep our head on a swivel and try to see them before they see us, but it's possible. And so for my own protection off duty, I've been involved in many major cases with some really bad guys, and that's a reason to carry concealed off duty. And just life in general can be unpredictable, and I believe it's a responsibility that we have as police officers, as trained individuals, to carry off duty responsibly. And so I make a lifestyle out of choosing to do that. In the past, I've instructed a course for mostly females was the audience, but as like a side gig, I would teach situational awareness and self defense to a female audience, and of all ages, teenagers to little old ladies. And we would talk about the responsibility of carrying a firearm. It goes beyond just buying a weapon and throwing it in your purse or in your glove box, which I don't advocate for. I believe if you're going to carry, you should do it responsibly and be trained to use it. And so, for example, I would have fairly often people will come up to me and say, hey, I bought this firearm to carry off duty. Can you give me your recommendations? Or I'm looking for one. Can you give me your recommendations for what to carry? And I always, first and foremost, recommend something that they're comfortable shooting, but then more than that, that they train properly, that they understand the law, things like that. And so I believe this is a huge responsibility. Another example is a lady at church came up recently and said, I bought some pepper spray. She's just letting me know. I bought some pepper spray for self-defense. What do you think? And I said, that's great. Have you ever been sprayed with pepper spray? Well, no, I don't care to. I've pepper sprayed a fair number of people in my life, and I just want you to know that if you spray someone with pepper spray, you're going to taste pepper spray. You're going to be exposed to pepper spray. There's a good chance you'll get as much on yourself as you will on them. Also, if you're spraying with someone with pepper spray, what has gone wrong that someone is so close to you? Do you know that you need to be 3 to 5, 7 feet away to spray someone with pepper spray? And so these are sorts of conversations I like to have with people about being prepared not off duty because they're not cops, but it's a bigger consideration than just buying a tool and putting it in your purse. And so sharing all of that, I believe that if you're trained and responsible to carry weapons off duty, that you should. And so today I forgot mine, and I left it at home, and I chose not to go back for it. Partly because I was going to the police station where I have access to it's a few minute drive. Unless something happens on the drive, I just decided I have other firearms there. I can gear up if something happens while I'm there, so I don't turn around and come back. And of course, Murphy comes, and my daughter calls a couple minutes later, and the next thing you know, I'm on this rescue mission, unarmed, in the public, which is fine. Like, I'm not crazy. I'm not paranoid, but I don't prefer it. And here I am, unarmed, and being chased down the street. Right? Not really. Like, I'm not in. This. By the way, this story ends really lame. Like, the guy stopped chasing me, but I am in a situation where this guy, who God knows where he knows me from, is pursuing me down the street, calling me a police officer, right? It has got all the warning signs for everything from a crazy person, which could be, to someone who's remembers me from some serious thing that we've arrested him for. So it's not ideal. And it's just a nice reminder for me that turn around, go back, get your gun, be prepared, don't be complacent. So that's kind of the lesson that I learned from this guy chasing me down the street. So I went back to my office, dealt with more of this incident, got the detectives squared away, linked them up with the investigating officers and the on-duty sergeant for patrol, and I came home. And then I easily could have pushed record and got started, but I didn't. I spent the next, say, hour tinkering in here, doing everything I could not to press record, just procrastinating. I have watched many videos about getting started, and more than one says just push record, start filming garbage, and that no one will watch, or maybe they will, but push record. And so I thought, all right, I've tinkered enough. I mean, I even had a leveling the camera and setting up monitors that you can't see, but that I can. And ultimately I pushed record, and so I got started. And FYI, the exciting part of the story is over. The rest is sort of lame. But I got started, and I talked for maybe 2 minutes in an intro that was trash, and I stopped. And then I pushed record, and I started again. And that intro was better, but I rambled on a little bit, which I tend to do. And so I stopped, and I started again. And then I got into what I would say was a pretty good start. And I got through the intro. I got into my story, and my phone rang. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't turn it off because I got that thing going at work, and so I had to answer it. It was a detective it was just an update, but it did interrupt the recording. And so then, because I've never done this before, I had pushed pause, and I don't know, I was like 10 minutes in. Do I start over? Do I watch back the video and see where I ended? Do I just take a guess? Do I link them together later? I don't know. So what I did was I did my best to remember where I got that phone call, and I went like this. And then I just started talking again. And it'll either work or it won't. And then, say several minutes into my story, the family that was down south at the volleyball game, they're home. They come in the front door, which is right on the other side of these doors in the office. And I don't have a sign. I don't have a way to say, hey, recording in progress. This is not Hollywood, far from it. And so I pushed pause. And actually, by pause, I just stopped the recording, which, of course, creates that video. I don't know the terms. And I stepped out, I greeted my family. I found out how volleyball went. I said, okay, I got to get back to it. It's like, everything in my being wants to procrastinate, so I should defy that. And so I come back in. I don't know where I was. I was in my story somewhere around my rabbit hole of why I carry off duty and why I advocate for that. And so I rewatched the video, and I pushed record again. And so this is somewhere on the other side of about the 5th attempt to film this, and I think it'll be fine. I've joked, of course it'll be fine. No one's going to watch it. No one's going to listen to it. And that of course is joking. We hope people are entertained. We hope people listen. Maybe they will. So if you're still watching, if you're still listening, we'll talk a little bit about some of the equipment we got. So bought a Sony camera, the ZVX10 something or other. It's not my thing. Bought this microphone. Most of what I did was watch videos about what other people are doing and what's important. Talked a lot about lighting and audio quality. I can tell you from experience if something is poorly lit and a video that I've started, I'm skipping it and find a different one. If the audio quality is trash, I'm skipping it. I'm getting another one. So as a consumer of videos, that's what I know. So I got some light up here, up at about a 45-degree angle and out at about a 45-degree angle, casting this light on me. Decorated this bookshelf with some LED lights that are blue, put some stuff on it. Books, most of which I've read. Grabbed these pictures off the wall at my office because I didn't really love them there. This American flag is made out of old barn boards and hung it there. And then just a handful of other trinkets. One of the original names for this show was going to be Coffee and Milk. I drink coffee. I'm somewhat known for it. It's my thing, let's say. And my kids love milk. I love milk. And so I have a son. He'll be on later. This show originally was going to be hours together. We were going to have conversations. In a couple of practices, it became apparent we could not fill content with conversations with him and I. He's got a busy schedule. And also he's 7. So he's kind of a scatterbrain. And he's very personable. He'll warm up to the camera, but when we put him in front of the camera, he was kind of a dweeb. So more on that to come. So the idea was I'd sip on coffee, he'd sip on milk, and we'd talk, and we'll do that. And then we realized lots of the kids here drink milk, and so that's kind of the theme, right? Sip some coffee and have milk for the kids, and that'll be our thing. In those segments, we do a lot of work in the garage, with very little experience or knowledge, but we do like to work on cars and things like that. And mostly very simple things, or I suppose to some people like moderately advanced things, depending on your skill level. So it could be some garage videos, things like that. And so, yeah, this is episode 1. Stay tuned for episode 2.